Hi everyone, it's Rhea, and today I'm going to go through all the 12 zodiac signs and share with you your horoscope for the solar eclipse that's occurring on February the 17th in the same sign that the planet of transformation is in, Aquarius. Now, where are we at currently in the realm of astrology? So Uranus, which is a planet of radical shifts and changes, is currently direct in the sign of Taurus. So now it's making its way and completing the Taurus cycle and getting ready to move into the next sign, Gemini. So we're finishing off the Uranus and Taurus cycle. Thank goodness, because this cycle has had a girl drained, okay? She's ready for this new energy, Uranus and Gemini, to arrive, but it's just a couple of little tiny lessons and loose ends we need to tie, and then we're ready. We're on to the new, which is Uranus in Gemini. And this is very important because Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius, and we will have a solar eclipse in Aquarius on February the 17th. And Uranus, which is a planet of shifts and changes and innovation, is very much connected with this eclipse. So there could be unpredictable changes that occur that you didn't see coming, or perhaps you did. And something we really got to address is Saturn and Neptune. Now, as I'm speaking, Neptune is currently in the sign of Aries. However, Saturn is just making its way. But by the time we have this solar eclipse that's going to occur, Saturn and Neptune will both be together in the sign of Aries, and they're going to do their big one. They're going to be in a conjunction. Now, just observing and looking at the latest news and what have you, this seems like a 2020 situation resurfacing. Now, when I was doing my Saturn and Neptune horoscopes, I didn't really want to steer in that direction because I don't want to bring up unnecessary panic or paranoia up. However, with the recent latest news and what's been happening globally, I mean, there's something that is surging with Saturn and Neptune, pretty much similar to what we went through in 2020. Now, will it get to that extent of restrictions, which is Saturn? We shall see. Neptune is the unseen. It's the invisible. It's what you can't really see physically with both of your eyes. Neptune is also, it's unclear. There's a lack of clarity. There could be confusion. There could be a lot of anxiety with Neptune. And then you've got Saturn. Saturn does rule over illnesses. It does rule over isolation. It does rule over anxieties as well, and melancholy, and it can be very strict, and there could be restrictions. So when Saturn and Neptune come together, I mean, it's a very classic 2020 scenario. However, there can be many different manifestations of Saturn and Neptune. How that plays out, only time will tell. And then that's the thing with astrology. Astrology, it can reveal to you different manifestations, right? But which path or what journey or what experience do we go through collectively and individually, time tells that. You can't really predict that until you're in the midst of it. So that's something always to bear in mind with astrology. I mean, I did see this as one of the manifestations. Was it something that I wanted to put out there? No, I was trying to be a little more positive, a pinch of positivity. But we shall see. And the best thing you can do is work on your nervous system. Work on your nervous system to the point where it's so strong and solid no matter what life throws. Collectively or personally, you have it together and you can navigate through it without losing it. That's something you can take from Saturn and Neptune, working on the nervous system. But that is all gearing up and preparing us for the eclipse, the solar eclipse in Aquarius on February the 17th. And this solar eclipse is in Aquarius, and even though the nodes haven't yet shifted, it's giving us a bit of a sneak peek, a little teaser and taste of what we can expect with these new eclipses, especially in the sign of Aquarius as well as Leo. And the Aquarius energy focuses a lot about humanity, society, people, innovation, change, technology, as well as freedom and liberation. So those are going to be key themes with this Aquarius energy. And when it comes to personally and your chart, that will depend on what area of life is ruled by Aquarius and where this eclipse will occur, which I will go through when I go through all the 12 zodiac signs. So those are some of the main themes. And like I said, Uranus is a key player in this solar eclipse, which also I'll get into when I go through all the 12 zodiac signs. So there's going to be this push, there's going to be this restlessness, there may even be this shock or this unpredictability that occurs that determines how we're going to move forward with these eclipses, especially the themes of humanity, society, freedom, and liberation. So, with that being said, let's get into all the 12 zodiac signs. Aries, Aries rising, you are one of the major characters of this eclipse. And not because the eclipse is in the sign of Aquarius, no, it's because we've got Saturn and Neptune both in your sign, forming into a conjunction. Now, that conjunction happens exact on February the 20th. So they are so close together, and they're still in a conjunction. They're still forming into a conjunction. And this is the time we've been waiting for. It's highly anticipated in the realm of astrology, and it's happening in your sign. The planet of discipline, responsibilities, hard work, duties, commitment, time, known as Lord of Time, Lord of Karma, Saturn, will be in a conjunction with Neptune, the planet of dreams, illusions, the planet of intuition and sensitivity. It's an energy that can bring a lack of clarity, that it can be confusing. It can also, at the same time, bring forward a lot of spiritual awakening and spiritual insight. It's a very peculiar energy, to say the least, and that's Neptune. So when they come together, there could be this sense of disappointment due to coming to terms with reality. Perhaps you viewed something a certain way. However, the rose-tinted glasses are removed during this time, or you have to face the consequences of a certain situation which perhaps you have been either escaping or avoiding in life. Or not only is Saturn asking you to restructure and rebuild through being very realistic and being very dutiful and committed to the area of life it is activating in your chart. And that for you is a first house. What is a first house? Well, the first house is one of the most personal areas of life, because just right before the first house is you have the ascendant, right? And the ascendant creates the entire chart, as does a first house. And it's about you. It's about ego. It's about your identity. It's about life path and purpose and the life direction you're taking. It could almost be like an ego death or an awakening. It could reveal to you where perhaps you have been either, yes, looking at everything from rose-tinted glasses, or certain situations and scenarios in your life, or certain aspects of self that you've been perhaps romanticizing or perhaps neglecting and not paying attention to. And there comes Saturn. Saturn's like, we got to work on this. We got to take our time, and we got to let go of the negative side of the ego, because of course the ego does play a role in our life. It has a purpose, but there are many aspects to the ego as well. It could be taking responsibility and taking just more authority over your life, and Saturn asking you to rebuild and restructure your life through being realistic, through being devotional, committed, and being very disciplined. That's a huge word with this transit, because Neptune is not a disciplined energy. It kind of just pushes and plays around, and it moves around, and you don't know what direction it's going in, because it's not that clear, and it doesn't really have kind of like a set goal or a set vision that it follows through. It kind of just floats around. But when you've got Neptune in Aries and Saturn in Aries, it's about, you got to have a vision, and you got to follow through that vision. It's almost like this deep spiritual quest that you have to conquer and accomplish, if we're looking at it from like a more spiritual lens. And it's about taking responsibility over your life, taking authority over your life. So this energy is going to ask you to get your ish together, okay? It's going to ask you to look at the areas of life and aspects of self that you've been avoiding or escaping or romanticizing or viewing from rose-tinted glasses. It's going to ask you to get very much in touch with reality and what is the overall mission here. What is the overall purpose? What is your spiritual quest? What is your spiritual purpose? And what is it that you are devoted and committed to accomplish and achieve in this life? And rather than just envisioning, we're going to get it done, and we're going to get it done through spiritual discipline and commitment, and in taking accountability and responsibility and authority over your life. So this is going to be very important energy, and especially because it's in a conjunction during the eclipse. Like I said, it does go exact during February the 20th, but nonetheless, they're both still in Aries at 0 degrees, forming into a conjunction. So it can be a great revelation. Now, we also have the solar eclipse, the sun and the moon happening, activating, awakening your 11th house. So this could bring a new shift or change, or this could be a seeding point regarding hopes and visions for the future as well. For the long-term future, and the people that play a role in that, such as your social life, your friendships, the groups you're part of, the networks you have, the people you know, the people you're acquainted to, that may shift and change as well. You may attract new people into your life that are very Aquarian, perhaps very freedom orientated, that are very philosophical, very much interested in philosophies and humanitarianism and society, perhaps even politics. They're very perhaps different than your usual circle even. These people can play a huge role in your life, especially for, let's say, the next 2 years when we're under this eclipse, the Leo and Aquarius eclipse influence. We also have Venus and the North Node coming into a conjunction during this eclipse, happening in your 12th house of the past, of the subconscious, of intuition, dream sensitivities. This is also known as a very hidden area of life, a very mysterious area of life. Could have to do with karma if you're more interested in spirituality in the esoteric spirituality. This could be a destined relationship coming together, or certain progression happening in a certain relationship, or a past relationship like that didn't really work out, but you're destined to be with each other. That could be a manifestation. Now, we got to be very careful with past situations. You got to ask yourself, why did it not work out in the first place? Let's not look at it from rose-tinted glasses from the Neptune perspective. No, we're moving away from that. We're being realistic. Now, if the timing was not right, that makes sense. However, if the timing was right and, there were just certain things that were not acceptable, or, it was a toxic cycle, well, this conjunction is also going to determine how much growth you have done on yourself. Because when we have evolved and grown to a certain point, the past and then the toxicity from the past and, certain relationships, we're at a place where there's no room for that anymore, because it's not a frequency vibrational match. In terms of love and relationships, it can be a very destined karmic time as well, especially because it's happening in the 12th house. It could also be great for working on your spirituality, on your intuition, on your creativity. If you work in the field of art or creativity, whether it's like a hobby, or a project that you have that's creative, or if you work in the field of creativity, or even working on like your self-worth and worthiness, this could be a time of setting boundaries with yourself as well, and even just working on being more gentle and soft with yourself, working more on your feminine energy. This could be a heart awakening as well. Venus is not always love and relationships in terms of somebody else. It could also just be the love you have for yourself, the relationship you have with yourself as well, because we're looking at it from the heart chakra. So, Aries rising, I'm wishing you all the best during this eclipse. May it work out in your favor.
Taurus rising, welcome to your solar eclipse horoscope. February the 18th, we got a solar eclipse in the sign of Aquarius at 28 degrees. Now, this solar eclipse is connected to you because when we've got this solar eclipse, we got the sun and the moon both in the sign of Aquarius at 28 degrees. We have Uranus, which is currently in your sign, and during this eclipse, it's going to be making a square to the eclipse. And a square is a bit of a challenging aspect. It can push a lot of your nerves and it can make you very restless, and there can be some chaos, but really it's pushing for some sort of change so you can get into a state of resolution. So when you've got a solar eclipse and Uranus triggering each other, especially Uranus being in your sign, yeah, you're going to feel this eclipse more intensely, and you may feel the restlessness, the kind of like this energy where you feel like it's a bit intense and it's a bit heavy and you need to kind of persevere through. But what it's asking is a breakthrough. It's asking for a shift. It's asking for an action that supports you to come to some type of resolution or some sort of change. Now, the solar eclipse is happening in your 10th house of career, goals, and ambition. So you got the sun and the moon, you got Pluto and Mars. So it seems like there's a lot of concentration, especially in the month of February, regarding this area of life. And you may be very focused here, like that's where a lot of your life force and energy is at. But then you've got Uranus, which is getting ready to make its exit from your sign. It's just these last couple of degrees and it's these last couple of lessons to integrate until it moves into the next sign. Now, Uranus being in your sign is impacting your first house, which is impacting you, identity, ego, life path, purpose, life direction. And the first and the 10th house are very much intertwined. Of course, every area of life is connected to every other area of life, and they're all intertwined, but the first and 10th house have similarities in the sense of this is where you kind of find your sense of self. You find your sense of self in the first house because that's your personality, that's your identity, but you also find your sense of self in the 10th house because whatever you are doing in terms of career and what you're trying to achieve and the goals you have for yourself, that requires a lot of your energy and time and focus, and it becomes part of your identity. That's what makes you you. That's, what you identify with strongly in life. So that's where there's an intense concentration and focus. But it may seem like you're trying to accomplish a certain career goal or trajectory, but from the Uranus aspect and being in your first house, you may feel impatient. You may feel restless. There's like a push and pull between what you're feeling, how you're moving forward, and what it actually is that you want to achieve and what's occurring in your kind of like career life. So that's where there's a push and pull, and it requires an action on your behalf to smooth this energy out. And as the time comes closer to this eclipse and during this eclipse, that will become more clear for what that means for you and in your personal life, because everyone's situation is unique and different. However, because this is an eclipse and we've got a solar eclipse, this is a seeding point. This is an initiation point. This is a time where, yes, there could be shifts and changes, but because this eclipse is falling in the Aquarius and Leo axis, but the nodes haven't yet shifted in those axes. They're not going to shift until summer, so the north node is still in Pisces and the south node is still in Virgo. So this is more of a teaser, a sneak peek, a little taste and introduction of what we can expect as we move forward, especially in the next 2 years or so with this Aquarius and Leo eclipse journey and energy. But you'll get a bit of a sneak peek of what may occur during these eclipses. And like I said, it's a seeding point, so being very aware of your surroundings and aware of like your mind and your actions and what it is you want to achieve and accomplish, especially pertaining to your life path, life direction, which then moves all the way towards your 10th house of career goals and ambitions, being very clear about that. And like I said, setting intentions, because that's where the changes and the shifts will be occurring for you, and you're going to feel that focus, concentration, and intensity. Now, we also have Saturn and Neptune going into a conjunction during this solar eclipse. They're forming closer and closer. They're not going in an exact conjunction until February the 20th, but nonetheless, they're still in a conjunction during this eclipse period. And that's going to be happening in your 12th house. So things and situations from the past may come up where those rose-tinted glasses are removed and you're left with the truth and reality of what needs to shift and change so you can move forward. If you were under the impression of something, or if you were in some type of illusion, or you were kind of escaping a certain situation, Saturn and Neptune coming together, that's going to make you face reality and make you make those changes so that you don't repeat the same cycle of being either in the tendency of escaping or being in a place of kind of sugarcoating things or romanticizing things or wearing rose-tinted glasses. Saturn is about, let's remove all of that. Let's remove the false layers. Let's remove the rose-tinted glasses. Let's get clear on reality and face reality for what it is. And as we move forward, we're rebuilding and we're restructuring and being very much in tune with reality, okay? So there could be some disappointment involved. Now, because it's Saturn and Neptune in the 12th house, it's not as clear of what that can mean for you, because the 12th house is very much Neptunian in the sense of it rules over a lot of different things, and it's a very hidden and mysterious area of life, and it has a lot to do with the unseen as well. So this will again depend on you and your chart and the journey you're on, but something from the past, because we're looking at the 12th house, may come into your life or come into your awareness where the rose-tinted glasses have to be removed and you have to face the reality of what it is. And it could just be the subconscious. It could just be your mind and how you perceived something. Like I said, it's a 12th house, and 12th house can sometimes be very non-physical. And then we also have Venus, the planet of love and relationships, in a conjunction with the destiny point, the future, the North Node, which is in Pisces. So for some, this could mean a destined relationship and partnership coming together. And because it's happening in the 11th house, this could even be like friendships forming, like destined friendships, destined collaborations, and working on your hopes and wishes for the future together. This could also have to do with working on your creativity, if your hopes and wishes for the future and visions involve a lot of creativity, or working on your heart chakra and working on self-worth and self-esteem. So Taurus rising, I'm wishing you all the best during this eclipse, and I'll speak with you soon. Hi Gem rising, welcome to your solar eclipse horoscope. We got a solar eclipse in the sign of Aquarius happening on February the 17th in the sign of Aquarius at 28 degrees. This is a seeding point. This is a teaser, sneak peek, and taster and an introduction to what we can expect throughout this year and also next year. The nodes are still in the Pisces and Virgo axis, but nonetheless, this is still an eclipse. And there are many changes that are on the way. This eclipse is happening in your 9th house. The 9th house is about higher learning and the higher mind. It's about philosophies, faith, adventure. And also it has a lot to do with travel. And this is where this eclipse is occurring. So this could be kind of like a seeding point to all the things that I just mentioned, or perhaps even just a few of them, or one particular thing such as travel. Now it seems like there's kind of like a push from Uranus with this eclipse. Now Uranus and the eclipse are making a difficult, challenging aspect. There's a square occurring. Uranus is currently in Taurus. It's finally in the last degrees and it's going to enter your sign soon, but since it's in Taurus, in the last couple of degrees of Taurus, it is influencing this eclipse. Now, Uranus in Taurus, especially in the 12th house, it's restless, it's impatient, it's frustrated. It's having to deal a lot with kind of like seclusion in a way, where it wants to be kind of like free, a free spirit and wild, and constantly experiencing change and shifts and liberation. It's kind of secluded and having to go through its own spiritual journey in the 12th house. it wants to let loose, it wants to be wild. So it seems like there's that frustration, but through that frustration, impatience, and that restlessness, something will change. Like I said, this is more so a seeding point, so it's not necessarily that all the things associated with the ninth house will be in fruition during this eclipse period, but they will be seeded for the future to come, which is throughout this year and next year. So be very careful with, what you're thinking and your thoughts and what you want for yourself. Be intentional. Plant those seeds for yourself so that you can lay a clear foundation and then go for what it is that you want to achieve. Is it more travel? Is it more adventure? Is it expanding your mind? Is it expanding your horizons and growing on your philosophies and your spirituality? Is it learning more? Is it education? Because that's where the eclipse is activating. So it's kind of giving you this opportunity to expand on those things, to seed all that you want regarding and pertaining to the ninth house. We also have Saturn and Neptune coming into conjunction during this time. Now, that conjunction between Saturn and Neptune is more exact on February the 20th, but they're still close enough. They're at 0 degrees. They're in the same degree during this eclipse, so this energy is very strong. Now, Saturn and Neptune together, it's about removing the rose-tinted glasses and coming to terms with reality. Okay, Saturn is about reality, this realm that we're living in, the responsibilities that we have, and the duty and the time and energy and effort we pour into the things that are important in our humane, mundane life. So with Saturn and Neptune occurring in the 11th house, if there were any friendships you were involved with, or groups, or ideologies even, or the people you know or knew, any part of that you've either been looking at from rose-tinted glasses, or there's been some confusion, lack of clarity, or you've been idolizing, that's all going to fade away. The glasses, the rose-tinted glasses are coming off. The veil, the layers are coming off. And you're going to be left with the reality of things. And sometimes that can be disappointing. For example, you can have like a friend, and this is just an example, that you've been perhaps idolizing and thinking so highly and great of, but then you come to terms with actually who they are, and who they are didn't match up to what you actually thought of them, because you were viewing them from rose-tinted glasses or the Neptunian lens. So it's about rebuilding and restructuring this area of life. This has a lot to do with hopes and visions and wishes for the future as well. Perhaps you kind of were romanticizing some of your hopes and wishes for the future and not looking at them from a realistic point of view. Well, Saturn will then make you restructure and rebuild on those hopes and wishes for the future as well. Now, we also have Venus and the North Node in a conjunction occurring in your 10th house. So what does this mean? So you've got the North Node, which is a destiny point, the energy we're headed towards the future. And then you've got Venus, which is love, relationships, and creativity. It's the heart chakra. It's a lot about worthiness as well. These two energies coming together, there could be a destined relationship, a destined partnership that occurs, or there could be a destined scenario, a situation regarding partnerships or creativity, connected to career goals and ambitions, because this conjunction is happening in your 10th house. So there could be something destined regarding your career and goals and ambitions that occurs as well, which can be absolutely great. I mean, Venus and North Node coming together is a beautiful, inspirational, full of love and passion and heart. And also, if you work in any creative field, or if you're just very creative, or you have creative hobbies, or you work on creative projects, this could be absolutely great for that, because it's going to inspire you, motivate you. It's almost like you're going to be channeling from your heart chakra. So Gem Rising, I'm wishing you all the best during this eclipse, and I'll speak with you soon. Hi Cancer Rising. Welcome to your solar eclipse horoscope. We got a solar eclipse happening on February the 17th at 28 degrees of Aquarius. This is activating your 8th house. What is the 8th house? So the 8th house has to do with shared resources. It has to do with what you own and share with others. It could have to do with intimacy and deep spiritual transformation. It's a very interesting area of life, because it's got like the mundane manifestation aspect to it, but also very deep spiritual aspect as well. Now, this is a seeding point, meaning it's an eclipse and it's giving us a teaser, taster, an introduction to what we can expect throughout this year and next year with the Aquarius and Leo eclipses. This could be a beginning of something new occurring in your 8th house. And regarding all that the 8th house is connected and pertains to. Interestingly enough, with this eclipse, we've got Uranus also bringing and adding a lot of intensity. Now, we've got Uranus that is currently at the end degrees of Taurus. So it's currently at 27 degrees. And when we have this eclipse, it's going to be in a square with the sun and the moon. So this could bring impatience, restlessness. It can bring a lack of knowing, in the sense of, it's kind of like the unknown card in tarot. It can bring unpredictability, where you think something's going a certain way but actually can change. And what Uranus is actually, and in the solar eclipse, what they actually need is a certain action to balance these energies out, because they're not actually getting along. And Uranus is in your 11th house, and it's connected to other people, friendships, groups, social networks, acquaintances, and the people that are kind of in your social circle, and also your hopes and wishes for the future. So these two energies and areas of life are getting very much activated and triggered, and there could be some shifts and changes, a push and pull between these two areas of life, and they're intertwined and connected with each other. With the solar eclipse happening in the 8th house, this could, like I said, it's a seeding point, which means you got to be very careful with what you're thinking and where you're putting your attention and energy into, because this is giving us kind of like a sneak peek to what we can expect, but also you can work with this energy, and it can help you to manifest and what you want the next 2 years or so to look like, and what you want to work on and grow and evolve on regarding the Aquarius and Leo axis in your life, which has to do with the 2nd and 8th house. So analyze your life. What is currently going on in your life, and how does it pertain especially to the 8th house and the 2nd house? And how do you want to evolve and grow with this energy? Remember, Pluto is in the 8th house. It's already bringing a lot of intense transformations, and it's going to be in your 8th house for the next 2 decades. You've also got Mars, and it's so interesting because both Pluto and Mars, they rule the same sign, Scorpio. But here they are in Aquarius, and Aquarius is very different to the energy of Aquarius. Aquarius is about freedom, independence, liberation. It's unique. It's different. Sure, it can be very stuck in its ways and very stubborn, but it's this masculine energy, and it constantly wants to evolve. That's a key word. And when you're thinking about the changes you want and what you're seeding, does it involve evolution? Does it involve freedom and independence? We also have Saturn and Neptune in a conjunction during this eclipse. Now, the exact conjunction happens on February the 20th, but nonetheless, during this time, both Saturn and Neptune are at 0 degrees of Aries, so they're in the same degree forming into a conjunction, and they are impacting your 10th house of career goals and ambitions. Saturn is really going to make you remove those rose-tinted glasses. If you've been idolizing or romanticizing or looking at this area of life from rose-tinted glasses, this is a time where those rose-tinted glasses will shatter. You'll be left with nothing but the truth of reality, and you may even be restructuring and rebuilding this area of life, your career goals and ambitions. What you thought this area of life meant for you, or what you wanted it to be, will entirely change. And compare it to now, and when you get into the end of the year, it's going to look very different, because Saturn is going to ask you to look at this area of life and then concentrate on this area of life. Don't look at it from a romantic state of mind, or look at it from just a positive lens, but look at it for exactly what it is and what you require from it and what you want to build for yourself. And Saturn is going to remind you that it's not just about having that vision or wanting it or desiring it for yourself or just thinking and imagining about it. It's about using your energy, especially because this energy, Saturn and Neptune coming together, it's going to be in Aries. Aries is all about action. So Saturn is going to ask you to take responsibility, take a lot of accountability, Be committed and devoted and disciplined about this area of life to see results. So if you work with this energy, it can really favor you. Sometimes it can be a bit difficult with Saturn in terms of, with the Neptune conjunction, there could be some disappointment involved, perhaps because you thought something was going to be a certain way and you find out that it's not. But this energy will help you to rebuild and then be realistic, which is really important. We also have Venus, the planet of love and relationships, in a conjunction with a North Node, which is a destiny point, the future where we're headed. So for some people, this could mean destined romantic relationships or partnerships coming together. This could also mean inspiration, especially if you work in creativity or the field of creativity. It can really support you to channel from your heart chakra and create just beauty and art and inspiration, okay? So there's a lot going on during this eclipse energy. There's many different themes and different areas of life being activated. So I'm wishing you all the best, and I'll speak with you soon. Hi Leo rising, welcome to your solar eclipse horoscope. This is a big eclipse for you. You are one of the main characters because the eclipse is occurring in your opposite sign. You've just had a full moon earlier on in your sign. And now here comes not just a new moon, but a solar eclipse in Aquarius at 28 degrees. So take a look at your chart and take a look at if you have any planets in either Aquarius or even your own sign at the latter degrees, such as 25 degrees and onwards, or even 28 degrees. That would be much more profound for you. But regardless also of the degree that your Aquarius energies and your Leo energies fall at, this is still bringing a lot of insight into what you can expect throughout this year and next year with the eclipses. Now, the nodes are still in the Virgo and Pisces axis, but they will be changing. They will be changing into the Aquarius and Leo axis this summer, and that's when those eclipses will really start to bring forth changes. So make notes of what you're feeling, what's coming up for you, some of the themes during this eclipse, because they can give you a lot of insight to what you can expect. In fact, this eclipse is like a seeding point of what is going to grow and evolve and bloom and blossom into this year and next year. And being intentional is key with the eclipses. The energy can be so strong and so magnetic. And remember, our thoughts do create our reality. That's how magnetic and powerful we are. This eclipse in Aquarius is activating your 7th house of relationships and partnerships and other people. This area of life is so charged up because not only is the eclipse occurring here, but we have two powerhouses in this area of life, Pluto and Mars. Pluto is creating a lot of intensity and transformation in this area of life, and then Mars is bringing a lot of stimulation and stamina and momentum and driving this area of life forward. So it seems like the direction of this eclipse for your zodiac is going to be very much focused on relationships. Now, there could be relationships that are forming, there are relationships that are shifting and changing, and because this eclipse is in the sign of Aquarius, Aquarius has a lot to do with independence and freedom and liberation. So those themes may be coming up. Now, what's interesting is this energy is being very much triggered by Uranus. Uranus is in the final degrees of Taurus, and it's making a square to this eclipse. Uranus is transiting your 10th house of career, goals, and ambitions. So your 10th and 7th house are intertwined and connected during this eclipse. This could show that there's some tension or there's some energies brewing up where there's some frustrations or restlessness based on career goals and ambitions and relationships. Perhaps these two areas of life are not seeing eye to eye, or they're not in harmony or balance because of, let's say, time. It can really vary depending on your own personal situation, but it seems like a certain action needs to be taken in order for harmony and balance to occur in both of these areas of life. So as much as your 7th house is being impacted during this eclipse, so is the 10th house. So there could also be some changes then. Remember, the key word here is freedom, independence, and liberation, and what that means to you pertaining to the 7th and the 10th house. Now, speaking of relationships, it's really interesting because Venus, the planet of love and relationships, and the North Node, which is a destiny point where we're headed the future, they will be in a conjunction during the solar eclipse. When you have Venus and the North Node, a classic manifestation can be a destined, fated relationship, partnership, because Venus is the goddess of love and relationships. It could also mean a time of deep healing and expanding your heart chakra. Because this is in your 8th house, it could have to do with relationships. The 8th house is a continuation of the 7th house. It's about what you share with somebody else. This could be regarding a relationship, or it could not be like a typical romantic relationship. It could be more so another type of form of partnership, but it reveals what you share with others, as well as intimacy and deep spiritual transformation. So there could be this fated, destined change that happens regarding those themes pertaining to the 8th house. Now also we have Saturn and Neptune in a conjunction, forming into a conjunction during this eclipse. They will be an exact conjunction on February the 20th. Now Saturn and Neptune in the 9th house, this is like a great awakening, and in many ways. Saturn is all about reality, being sober, being disciplined, and being very much in touch with your duties and being committed and disciplined. And Neptune is a complete opposite, because Neptune is about fantasy and escaping and illusions. So when these two energies come together, the rose-tinted glasses are off, and Saturn is going to reveal where you need to be more disciplined in your life, and where you need more restructure, and where you need to reorganize and rebuild. And because it's happening in the 9th house, this could have to do with your perspective, with your beliefs, with your philosophies, how you view the world, with your mind, the higher mind. That is key with the 9th house. This could involve travel as well, faith as well. So there's going to be a great awakening happening, a shift happening, a transformation as well regarding your philosophies and your beliefs. And remember, our beliefs and philosophies shape who we are, and the things that we do in life, and the things that we're interested in life. Relationships, they impact all aspects of life. So that is going to shift and change as well. So Leo rising, it's a very interesting time. Things are shaking up and changing. The eclipses will move into your sign and your opposite sign, Aquarius, during summer. And right now we're in this phase of, we've got one cycle coming into fruition and another cycle, which is a Pisces and Virgo eclipse energy, coming to an end. So we're between crossroads, and there's many shifts and changes happening. So I'm wishing you all the best, Leo rising. Let me know how this energy goes for you, and I'll speak with you soon. Take care. Hi Virgo rising. Welcome to your solar eclipse horoscope. We have a solar eclipse happening on February the 17th in the sign of Aquarius at 28 degrees. This is a new cycle emerging. We've got this new start, this teaser, taste, and introduction to what we can expect throughout this year and next year. Now bear in mind, the nodes are still in your sign. The South Node is in Virgo and the North Node is in your opposite sign, Pisces. And we're still going to finish off the eclipses in your sign. So that cycle that has been coming up throughout last year and this year is now coming to its finale. But simultaneously, on the other hand, we have also this new cycle, this new chapter emerging, and that's the Aquarius and Leo energy, because the eclipses are taking place in Aquarius and Leo throughout this year and next year, but you're still also going to finish off the eclipses in your sign. So it's a lot to kind of juggle, but change and transformation and evolving, that is just the constant flow of life. Now, in terms of this eclipse, this introduction, this is happening in your 6th house, which is kind of like another extension of the Virgo energy. The 6th house rules over daily life routine, habits, your lifestyle, work, it also rules over wellness and self-care. So it goes hand in hand with the Virgo energy, because the Virgo energy can be very organized. It has its way with how things are in order and in structure and routine. It's a very workaholic energy, and also a lot of Virgo traits involve like taking care of one's well-being. So the sixth house is kind of like another extension of the Virgo energy, and this is where the eclipse is occurring. And not only is the eclipse occurring, the sun moon will be in the sixth house of Aquarius, but you've got Mars and Pluto also in this area of life. So there's this deep concentration and focus. So during this time, this eclipse, it's very important to be intentional, because our thoughts and our intentions can be very magnetic. This energy is going to be like a seeding point. It's going to seed your goals and what you want to create throughout this year and next year. And if those intentions and those goals involve like transforming your lifestyle in terms of your daily life and routine, and wanting change and more freedom and liberation, as well as with health and wellness and self-care, well-being, taking care of yourself and work, then this energy is going to support you in that. And this is where some of those changes can occur during this eclipse, or at least you may see some glimpses of that change that perhaps you have been wanting, but your life has been more focused on other areas. But this is now where there's going to be that transformation. And already you've got Pluto there, but this solar eclipse kind of emphasizes on that energy much more. Now, interestingly enough, Uranus, which is currently in Taurus, is making a challenging aspect with this solar eclipse. Uranus is in your ninth house of travel, of expanding your horizons, philosophies, a higher mind, faith. And it seems like you want more freedom and liberation, you want more excitement, through adventure, through travel, through expanding your mind. But at the same time, the sixth house is about routine, it's about organization, it's about structure, it's about your day-to-day life and routine and work and wellness. And then it seems like that kind of change and the excitement you're seeking and want is kind of going head to head with the sixth house and the needs of the sixth house. And this is where Pluto is going to ask you to go more deeper. Why do you need more excitement? Why do you need more liberation? And why do you need a lot of change of scenery and change of environments? What is the reason behind that all? It has to emerge from somewhere. So you can do also a lot of shadow work with this energy to truly figure out and find out what it is that you're truly yearning for and the reason for it. And also during this time, we have Saturn and Neptune in a conjunction. Now, they're forming a conjunction during this eclipse. They both will be in 0 degrees of Aries. They get into an exact conjunction on February the 20th. But nonetheless, this is a very significant time because it's the day of the eclipse. So Saturn and Neptune in your 8th house, this is also going to ask you to do a lot of shadow work and digging into the soul, because Saturn is about reality. It's about time, effort, energy. It's about accumulating wisdom and being the greatest version of yourself. And then you have Neptune, which is a complete opposite energy, which is more about daydreaming and illusions and fantasy and romanticizing everything. And the 8th house is rules over what you share with others, resources, materials. This can go even more deeper in terms of a relationship, and it could be more about intimacy and deep spiritual transformation. So any cloudiness or lack of clarity, or any romanticizing this area of life, or perhaps not looking at it for what it exactly is, that is going to be a huge theme as well. And there may be a transformation or a shift or coming into some deep, strong realizations in that area of life. And because it's in the 8th house, it's not always the most straightforward, because the 8th house has many different layers to it, many different undertones, and it can take you really, really deep. And especially with Saturn there as well. So there may be a lot of discipline enforced during this time through Saturn's part. And it is to help you to become more mature, to become more wiser, and to become the greatest version of self. But that does take time and effort. Now, interestingly enough, you've been going through a lot of relationship and life changes since the nodes have been in your sign, and you've been having these eclipses, because that's the areas of life that these eclipses have been activating. And yes, you still have the North Node in the 7th house, and you can have a lot of 7th house energy throughout the later part of February as well. But you've got Venus, a planet of love and relationships, in a conjunction with the North Node during this eclipse in the 7th house. For some of you, this may mean deep, fated, destined relationships and partnerships occurring. And it's really interesting, because a lot of people have been processing their relationships and going through many different changes through their relationships, and those changes can mean different, they can be different for everyone. Everyone's life is different and unique in the path that we're on. But here comes this very strong, powerful energy, Venus and the North Node. Venus being the planet of love and relationships and the heart chakra, and the North Node being the future and where we're headed and the destiny point. So for some, like I said, this can be a destined relationship coming into fruition. Or it could be a time of healing, of reconciliation, or coming together and working through things as well. Okay? It's a very interesting energy, because it's happening during the eclipse, so the manifestation of it is just amplified. So this eclipse is bringing forth a lot of different changes, a lot of different activations in your 6th, 7th, and 8th and 9th house. So almost like the kind of rose-tinted glasses are off during this time, and you're having to look at all the parts of your life that really need to be more clear, and that need to be more defined or redefined, and there needs to be more restructuring and also rebuilding. So I'm wishing you all the best, Virgo rising. Let me know how you get on during this eclipse, and I'll speak with you soon. Libra rising, welcome to your horoscope for the solar eclipse that's happening on February the 17th at 28 degrees of Aquarius. During this time, and especially the week of the eclipse, we're going to get a bit of a sneak peek and an introduction to what we can expect throughout this year and next year with the eclipses that are falling in the Aquarius and Leo axis. Now, the nodes are still in the Virgo and Pisces axis, and we're still going to have eclipses in those signs, but those are finale eclipses. And as we are coming to an end of that cycle, simultaneously, a new cycle, a new chapter is also emerging. And the area of life that is being impacted is the 5th house for you, with the Sun and the Moon in Aquarius. We've got Pluto and Mars also in the 5th house, so there's a deep concentration and focus regarding what makes you happy, what makes you laugh, what makes you feel pleasure and joy and happiness. This has to do with your creativity, leisure, and also self-expression, as well as romance and dating. The 5th house is known as the house of joy. So it's almost like this area of life is being reestablished, especially with Pluto. It's breaking down kind of the superficial joy, and it is going to support you to get more in tune, get more deeper with what it is that you really want in order to feel joy and happiness, what really brings you that heart-centered joy and happiness. So with the solar eclipse occurring in this area of life, this may bring forth a new adventure, a new opportunity, a new experience or even like a new epiphany that has to do with either like a creative hobby, a creative gift, or something that you perhaps were aware of, but during this time you have a much more deeper and profound interest in, and you want to pursue that really fulfills you on a soul and heart centered level. This may also have to do with romance and dating. Now, when we look at relationships in astrology and when it comes to the houses, the fifth house reveals more of the dating aspect of relationships, the more fun, romantic aspect of relationships. The relationship gets much more deeper and more established when we're looking at the seventh and eighth house. And interestingly enough, the seventh house for you is also being very much activated during this eclipse. So the activation that's occurring in the fifth house is going to continue, and it is intertwined with the seventh house. Because when we get into the eclipse, Saturn and Neptune are both going to be at 0 degrees of Aries, which is your opposite sign. Okay? And they are forming a conjunction. They get into an exact conjunction on February the 20th, but nonetheless, they're still in a conjunction. So what is Saturn and Neptune? Now, Saturn is about time. It's known as Lord of Time, Lord of Karma. It's about discipline, reality. It's about hard work, effort, energy. It supports you to gain wisdom and how to become a sage through life experience, through trials and tribulations. And then opposite to that, and when I say opposite to that, what I mean is the contrast between Saturn and Neptune, because they're so opposite. They're on opposite ends of the spectrum. Neptune is more about fantasy. It wants to immerse in just this fantasy world, whatever makes it feel good. It's very intoxicated and hypnotic, and sometimes it can't distinguish the difference between what is real and what is just an illusion. And with Neptune, often, if we think of like a classic example, Neptune in the seventh house, you can meet somebody who comes across as the picture perfect person, and they have all kind of like the right things to say to you. They do all the right things, and we kind of fall for that. We fall for that kind of facade, but underneath the surface, it could be a completely different person that we're not aware of, because we're falling for the romance. We're falling for this fantasy that they're creating or selling us on. That can be more of a shadow manifestation of Neptune. But when Saturn and Neptune come together, this is when you can have very strong realizations if you were under that Neptunian influence, and if you were in a relationship with somebody or seeing somebody who just felt like Prince Charming or just felt like your dream person. Now, this isn't to give like your hopes up or anything, because often we do fall for the people that actually are not good for us, actually act as a spiritual mirror and reveal to us the truth, even if it means falling for them. Eventually, we do come to terms with what is actually true and what is false. And with Saturn and Neptune, that could be one manifestation where you come to awareness of who somebody is, or if you've been romanticizing a relationship or a partnership or a person, because the seventh house has to do with relationships, other people. The seventh house reflects the other people in your life, and through those other people, we learn more about ourselves. It can also reveal to us our expectations. Perhaps we are sold on this fantasy. Perhaps we're not being realistic with relationships, or our expectations are so high. And I'm not saying bring your expectations down and low. Absolutely not. Know your worth. Hold yourself accountable. Hold the other person accountable. Have your standards high, but are they realistic? So with Saturn and Neptune, there may be a level of disappointment, but you kind of have to restructure and reorganize. And that's Saturn, your kind of expectations from a relationship, from a person, and the reality and what is actually attainable. Because Neptune can go far and beyond. It can really crave kind of like a fairy tale. But here we are in this earthly realm having an earthly experience, a human experience. It's not always rainbows and unicorns, and that's what Saturn is here to teach. So it can feel like you're conflicted in terms of what you really desire, and especially because you're ruled by Venus, you're ruled by the goddess of love, right? But it's about restructuring and rebuilding your relationships and in what you expect and what you want. And because this is going to happen in the sign of Aries, which is your opposite sign, it has to do, and because Neptune is in Aries, it's not about just wishing, it's about showing up for yourself the way you want somebody else to show up for you. And that is the law of attraction, right? When you act as the relationship that you crave, that the kind of romance and the love and then the safety and the commitment you want from someone else, when you embody it for yourself, that energy is going to find you, and it's going to be magnetic. So that can be a really important theme during this solar eclipse: love and relationships and your heart chakra. And it's so interesting also because we've got a Venus and North Node conjunction in the sign of Pisces happening during this eclipse. So love and relationships are going to be even more stronger for you during this time, because you've got Saturn and Neptune forming a conjunction in the 7th house of relationships. You've got the solar eclipse happening in your 5th house that also is connected to romance and dating and, you know, the first initial stages of a relationship, the honeymoon stage of the relationship where it's just so delicious, right? And you can't stop thinking of the person. But then you've also got the North Node and Venus coming into a conjunction in your 6th house, which is gonna, perhaps for some, this could be like a destined fated relationship. It could also be connected with work and lifestyle or self-love and self-care because it's in the 6th house. It can require you to really kind of organize your love life, or organize and then reorganize your heart chakra, recalibrate it, reset it. And when I say reset the heart chakra, I mean clear away any anguish or hurt or memories you're holding on, so that your heart is not holding on to anything from the past, and so that you can fill it up with so much joy, with so much fulfillment, not by relying or depending on another person, but by, like I said, being the person that you want for yourself. So Libra rising, I'm excited for this eclipse for you. And let me know what's going on in your life. Leave a comment down below. I'm wishing you all the best, and I'll speak with you soon. Hi Scorpio, Scorpio rising. Welcome to your solar eclipse horoscope. The solar eclipse is happening on February the 17th at 28 degrees of Aquarius. This is a new cycle emerging. This is a new chapter also beginning. And during this eclipse, we're going to experience some new energies and new themes. We're going to get a bit of a sneak peek, a teaser, a taster, and an introduction to what we can expect throughout this year and next year with the Leo and Aquarius eclipses. So the solar eclipse is happening in the sign of Aquarius, so both the sun and the moon, as well as Pluto and Mars, will be activating your 4th house of home, family, roots, belonging, security, and stability. This energy is going to be very strong in the 4th house. It's almost like this very intense, deep concentration, because not only is this eclipse the sun and the moon, but also your rulers, both Mars and Pluto, will be activating the 4th house. So you can expect some new shifts and changes arising and emerging regarding your home life, family, your sense of belonging, your roots, and security and stability. Now, the fourth house is also an area of life where you go to retreat and rejuvenate. Always think of the fourth house, especially if you're a water sign, like an area of life that gives you nourishment, because that's what home is meant to give you, nourishment. That's what family is meant to give you, nourishment. You know, whenever I think of the fourth house, I think of like bathing in water, or an ocean, because I'm a water dominant as well. That's what nourishment is to me. That's what home feels like to me. So this energy is going to become more stronger as the months go by throughout this year and next year. But during this time, you may experience something new happening regarding your family life, your family dynamic, regarding where you live, home, and also how you feel about where you belong, what home means to you, what family means to you. Are you getting the nourishment, the nurturing, the love, the place of joy? Because that's what, even though the fifth house is a house of joy, but the fourth house is also meant to provide you with that nourishment, nurturing, joy, love, unity, stability. It's what you get from the fourth house. And it seems like there's a push from the seventh house, which is where Uranus is currently at. And during this eclipse, Uranus is going to be triggering this solar eclipse. Uranus is a planet of changes and unpredictability. It pushes you to freedom and liberation. And it's currently in the seventh house of love and relationships. And it's kind of at odds with the fourth house. So this may be connected to other people, relationships and partnerships. And you're trying to find the balance between your personal life, your home life, and how your relationship fits into that. Perhaps you are trying to move in with somebody you're in a relationship with, or perhaps you are already living with somebody, but you're trying to figure out, well, where is our home going to be, and what does our home provide for us? Are we on the same page regarding home and family? Do we want to settle down? Do we want more stability? Do we need change? Do we need more freedom and liberation? Because we're looking at the Aquarius energy. And Aquarius energy can be very aloof. It can require a lot of independence and freedom. And you got Uranus as well, which is shaking things up, and it's unpredictable. So you don't know which way things are going, but it also requires a lot of freedom and liberation. So you may be dealing with that. You know, I want home, I want family, I want stability, but I also need independence. I also need freedom and change. And I need to feel independent as well. I need my own space as well. So those are some of the themes that will be coming up for the Scorpio and the Scorpio rising. Now, everyone's chart is, of course, unique and different, so it won't manifest for everyone the same way, but that is the overall energy. We also have the North Node and Venus in a conjunction in the sign of Pisces during this eclipse, which is activating the fifth house. So for some, there may be a fated, destined relationship that occurs, or fated, destined moment and experience that really supports you in feeling great about yourself, great about your creative gifts and abilities, or that really supports your heart chakra, that makes you feel very fulfilled and then brings a lot of joy into your life. This could be your heart chakra really expanding, and then getting a sense of healing as well, because we're looking at Venus, which is also the heart, and the North Node, which is the future, where we're headed, the energy we're headed to, the destiny point, and them coming together in the sign of Pisces, which is a water sign. It also has a lot to do with healing and nourishment. This could be a destined moment where you get an opportunity to expand in your creative endeavors, in your creative hobbies, and your creative gifts and abilities that feels very fated as well. We also have Saturn and Neptune in a conjunction during this eclipse, and Saturn and Neptune will go into an exact conjunction on February the 20th, but nonetheless, they're both still in Aries, and they are forming into a conjunction in the sixth house during this eclipse. So this is where you may have to restructure, reorganize, and rebuild on your lifestyle and how your day-to-day life is kind of organized, your routines, self-care and wellness, as well as work. Saturn is all about discipline, putting energy, effort, time, and being very much in tune with reality, whereas Neptune is very much in a fantasy and wears rose-tinted glasses and romanticizes everything. So with this conjunction, anything that you've been romanticizing regarding this area of life, like your lifestyle or work, those rose-tinted glasses will be shattered and you will be left with the truth, which is Saturn. And sometimes the truth can be a lot to comprehend, but it's required so that we can be very much in tune with reality, which is again Saturn. And Saturn can support you to put a lot of energy and time and effort into rebuilding, reorganizing, restructuring your lifestyle and your work goals, and support you in accomplishing some of those work endeavors that you perhaps want to accomplish but have felt like you've been kind of set back, or you haven't really been very clear on what direction to take, because that's Neptune. It can bring a lack of clarity, but if you work with Saturn, Saturn can actually support you to build and grow and evolve. So Scorpio, Scorpio rising, wishing you all the best during this eclipse, and I'll speak with you soon. Hi Sag rising, welcome to your solar eclipse horoscope. We got a solar eclipse happening on February the 17th in the sign of Aquarius at 28 degrees. This is a new energy that's occurring. Now the nodes are still in the Pisces and Virgo axis, so this solar eclipse is giving us a sneak peek, an introduction, a little teaser to what we can expect when the nodes do shift into the Aquarius and Leo axis in summer. So this is also like a seeding point as well. Like, we have the opportunity to be very clear and intentful of what we want from these eclipses that will occur this year and next year in the sign of Aquarius and Leo. So being intentful and aware and being very clear on what it is you want to kind of create for yourself through this Aquarius and Leo eclipse journey is very important, especially if you work with law of attraction and, you like to take into consideration of what the stars are kind of like pushing us into the direction of, and also listening to your higher self and then your intuition. So this solar eclipse is activating your third house. What's the third house? So the third house has a lot to do with your mind. It has a lot to do with awareness and thinking. Communication is huge. Ideas. If we go a little more esoteric, it has a lot to do with enlightenment and awakening as well. It can have a lot to do with travel as well and your experiences on a day-to-day basis, the kind of places you're explore and you're around on a everyday basis. So we've got the sun and the moon here activating this area of life. So this could be a time of awakening and enlightenment and being on this spiritual journey of evolving and growing, especially when it comes to your mind and how you speak, how you think, how you articulate your thoughts and your ideas. You can actually create something masterful with this energy through the journey of this Aquarius and Leo eclipse is happening this year and next year, and this could be the seeding point. What is it that you want to create for yourself that leads you and pushes you to freedom and independence, and also kind of channeling the unique version of yourself that is about the future, that is thinking ahead, that is timeless. This could be a seeding point as well that is connected to any like creative projects you're involved in that require a lot of ideas, that requires a lot of communication. Now, this communication can be either written or verbal. It could have to do with technology as well. So being very intentful. What in your life involves those things? Because you got Pluto here in the third house that is going to be awakening and enlightening you in so many different ways. Pluto is going to be in Aquarius for the next 2 decades. You also have Mars during this time. So there seems to be a lot of focus, a lot of concentration on your third house. So how you're thinking, your mind, what's coming up, thoughts, ideas, awareness, communication, writing, reading, learning, the day-to-day activities and the areas and places you're at, and what you're kind of like absorbing and also kind of integrating. You also have Venus and Neptune coming into a conjunction during this time. Now, Venus is a planet of love and relationships, and the North Node is the destiny point where we're headed the future. So when they come together, this has to do with like either like a destined relationship, progressing forward into the future with somebody in a relationship, a partnership. This could have to do with creativity and your self-worth and channeling from your heart. Now for you, it's in the 4th house. So it can mean all the things that I've said, but it can also have to do with moving forward in terms of home and family and where you belong and that kind of like calling that you have in the 4th house. Because that's the energy that you got Venus and the North Node in. You also got, you're going to have, well, the sun here as well, because the sun moves into Pisces on February the 18th, so not soon after the eclipse. So that's also the area that is pushing you to grow and evolve in. Saturn and Neptune will also be in a conjunction during this solar eclipse. They go exact into a conjunction on February the 20th, but nonetheless they're forming into a conjunction both in the sign of Aries. So Saturn is about discipline, hard work, effort, time, reality. It's known as the Lord of Time and Lord of Karma. It helps you to become the greatest version of yourself, helps you to become the sage. And then you've got Neptune, which is a very strange yet hypnotic energy. On one hand, it's about dreams, intuition, spirituality. On the other hand, it rules over illusions, deceit, lack of clarity, and it's kind of like a blend of both, where it can become like a very nauseous energy. But Saturn and Neptune coming together is here to really ground us and help us to remove rose-tinted glasses and get very much in tune with boundaries and reality, and work on rebuilding and restructuring the area of life it's transiting. And it's transiting the 5th house. So the 5th house is all about happiness and joy, pleasure, creativity. Can have to do with romance and dating as well. So this energy may ask you to look at how much fun are you having? Are you having more fun, and are you neglecting your responsibilities or escaping away from your responsibilities through this area of life? And if you are, how are we going to rebuild and restructure this area of life so you can have a balance of both worlds? But then also it can mean if you have a lot of creative visions, because the 5th house rules over creativity, and you have a lot of projects you want to work on. Perhaps you have ideas or visions or goals for yourself, but are you following through? Are you just daydreaming about them? Are you just imagining them and visualizing them, which is Neptune? Saturn can actually help you to build on them and to grow them through time, discipline, effort, and energy, and being realistic and being devoted to that, and also by taking action. Now remember, both Saturn and Neptune will be in the sign of Aries, which means Aries being a very action-orientated energy, it's about manifesting. It's a go-getter energy, so it can actually support you to work on those visions and those goals you have for yourself that involve creativity. It could be art, design, fashion, self-expression, photography. Think of Neptune in the 5th house. It's very creative and inspirational and artistic, right? So it can be very interesting, Saturn Neptune in the 5th house, because it can manifest in a couple of different ways. And actually, if you are a creative individual, this can be very beneficial in terms of supporting you to put your kind of like manifestations and visions into action and perspective. So Sag rising, I'm wishing you all the best during this solar eclipse, and I'll speak with you soon. Hi Cap rising, welcome to your solar eclipse horoscope. So we've got a solar eclipse in the sign of Aquarius at 28 degrees on February the 17th. Now this eclipse is marking a new beginning, a new journey, a new shift. It's a seeding point. The eclipses are going to be in the Aquarius and Leo axis. However, the nodes have not yet shifted or changed. They're still in the Pisces and Virgo axis, but nonetheless, this solar eclipse is giving us a bit of a sneak peek, a teaser, and an introduction to what we can expect, especially in the next 2 years or so. Now, this solar eclipse is activating your 2nd house. So what is the 2nd house? So typically when we look at the 2nd house through the lens of astrology, we look at the 2nd house and its connection to money and finances and what you own and resources. But behind all of that is the word self-worth. Because if you think about it, how you feel about yourself how worthy you feel, what you feel like you deserve, how much you believe in yourself, determines the amount of abundance and resources that enter your life. That is the law of attraction. So this energy is really transforming all that you feel about yourself and what you deserve, which then does materialize. You already have Pluto in Aquarius in your second house, which is bringing a lot of transformation in this area of life. It can even have to do with your attitude towards finances and resources, or your attitudes towards yourself and worthiness. And then here comes the solar eclipse, the sun and the moon in Aquarius. And remember, we also have Mars in this area of life. And this could also be a new shift, or there could be changes, or a seeding point in this area of life. It could have to do with more abundance. It could have to do with your attitudes changing and shifting in this area of life. It could have to do with new resources entering your life. But it is a seeding point. And the reason it's a seeding point is because the nodes haven't yet moved into the Aquarius and Leo axis, right? They're still in the Virgo and Pisces axis. So we're just getting a teaser to this energy. And this energy will start to evolve and grow and proceed further as the nodes do shift into the Aquarius and Leo axis. So be very intentful and be very mindful and aware of, how do you feel about yourself? How deserving do you feel? How do you feel about abundance and being resourceful? What do those things mean to you? That's what Pluto is also going to help you to understand more of and then get more deeper and in tune with. Now, we also have a very strong energy connected to love and relationships happening during the solar eclipse. So like I said, the North Node is in Pisces. So the North Node is a destiny point. It's the future where we're headed towards, and it's in the sign of Pisces. And then the planet of love and relationships is also in the sign of Pisces. And the North Node and Venus are making a conjunction during the solar eclipse, which is emphasizing on love and relationships. This could be destined relationships coming together, partnerships, moving forward in a relationship, evolving a relationship. It's a very love-orientated energy, but it also has a lot to do with your heart chakra and how you feel about yourself and worthiness and self-esteem as well. So there could be a shift and change in that regard, but this conjunction is happening in your third house. So the third house has to do with the mind and how we process information and thoughts. It has to do with communication. So it could almost be like understanding what your relationships mean to you, or making a decision of some sort that determines the future of your relationship. That is a classic North Node and Venus in the third house conjunction manifestation. Or it could simply be having a very important dialogue with someone, a very strong heart-to-heart, getting things off your chest, getting things off your heart. That determines also the future of that relationship as well. This is great if you work in arts or the creative field, whether it has to do with work or has to do with your hobbies and creative endeavors. This could be very just inspirational and almost like channeling the creativity from your heart. So it's great for creating an art and design and aesthetics. We also have Saturn and Neptune forming and coming into a conjunction during the solar eclipse. Now, Saturn and Neptune come to an exact conjunction on February the 20th, but nonetheless, they're still going to be at 0 degrees of Aries during this eclipse, and this is happening in your fourth house of home and family. And during this time, there could be this grand awakening regarding this area of life. There could be a removing the rose-colored glasses and coming to terms with reality. Or if you've been escaping this area of life or not looking at the reality and not looking at the deeper meaning of this area of life and your responsibilities, or the amount you need to pour into this area of life, if you've been kind of escaping or romanticizing this area of life, looking at it from the surface, everything is going to come into perspective during this time. So there could be this grand awakening regarding home, family life, your sense of belonging, as well as stability and security. Now, Saturn is your ruler, so this energy is going to impact you much more strongly, and especially because it's also in the sign of Aries. So if you have like really early Aries or early Capricorn in your chart, this could be a much more stronger manifestation. But it's about coming to terms with reality and your duties and restructuring and rebuilding this area of life. So Capricorn rising, a lot of changes on the way. This is a seeding point, and I'm wishing you all the best for the solar eclipse in Aquarius. Speak to you soon. Aquarius rising. This is a solar eclipse happening in your sign, making you the main character of this eclipse. Now, even though the nodes have not yet moved into the Aquarius and Leo axis, this is still very profound and important because it's setting the foundation of what we can expect throughout the Aquarius and Leo eclipses. So during this time, this potent time, many things can shift, change. It could be a seeding point, and new moons and solar eclipses, they do mark a birth of something new, a new beginning, a new journey. And this is a new journey for you, especially regarding your identity, your sense of self, who you are as a person, and where you're headed, your life path. It's all about your life and everything that comes with you and everything that is in your life. And when you have eclipses in a zodiac sign and when they land in your first house, this can change the entire trajectory you're on in life. It could be almost like this deep, profound awakening to self, to life, to many different avenues, and it's about a rebirth for you. And it's not just any type of rebirth, because you have the planet of rebirth and transformation, Pluto, also in your zodiac sign Aquarius. Now, it's currently, as I'm speaking, at 3 degrees of Aquarius, making its way into 4 degrees. So it's in the very early stages of Aquarius. And remember, Pluto will remain in Aquarius for the next 2 decades. But nonetheless, it's still activating and bringing forth so much shifts, changes, and transformation for your zodiac and perhaps for you. Now, of course, it depends on your personal Aquarius placements, and this eclipse is really going to impact those that have Aquarius placements in the later degrees. So think of it from 25 degrees and onwards. Now, this eclipse is at 28 degrees of Aquarius, but if you have any planets in the later degrees, so from 25 degrees and onwards, this is going to be more profound and more stronger for you. So major life changes can be seeded during this time, and as this eclipse journey proceeds, especially for the next 2 years, you'll start to see those shifts and changes, and it can, like I said, change the entire trajectory you're on. And this is a time where there could be very just destined and fated relationships that can occur under this influence of this eclipse, and that's because the planet of love and relationships and the North Node, which is the future and destiny, are in a conjunction in the sign of Pisces. Now, even though this falls into your second house, just overall, when Venus and the North Node come together, this could be like a fated, destined relationship that occurs. And does that mean it's going to occur for every single Aquarius on this planet? No, but that is an overall general manifestation of these two energies coming together, because it's not every day that you have Venus and the North Node coming into a conjunction, okay? So this is also a very strong theme of this eclipse, is fated and destined relationships. And because it's in Pisces, there's more emotion involved here and more sentiment involved here. Now, that's one manifestation under this North Node and Venus conjunction. And for you, because this energy will occur in your second house, it could also have to do with self-worth. Now, Venus is often, we look at Venus and we think of love and relationships, but it can also have a lot to do with self and worthiness and the heart chakra. And when we look at the second house, that also has a lot to do. I mean, I know we always think about money and finances when we think about the second house, but behind all of that, what is attracting the money manifestation and the finances and the abundance is self-worth. How worthy do I feel? How good do I feel about myself? It goes back to how you feel, because how you feel is what you bring into your life as well. It's what you attract into your life. It's a law of attraction. So during this time, there could be profound changes in how you feel about self and how worthy you feel. Now, in terms of manifestation, intentions are, even more powerful, because here you have Venus and the North Node coming together. That is such a strong manifestational energy, especially themes surrounding love, relationships, worthiness, self, the heart chakra, creativity. Venus also has a lot to do with abundance and money manifestation, but more in the sense of how much you enjoy it and how much pleasure you get from it. Perhaps also how much and how much you spend, and kind of like your financial habits in a way as well. So that is another strong energy and theme. And then we also have Saturn and Neptune in a conjunction during this time. And for you, it's impacting the third house. This is ruling over your mind, communication, thinking. So when these two energies come together, this is like really coming into awareness of what is going on. This could be regarding what's going on in relationships with Venus and the Neptune conjunction, what's going on with you and your life and where you need to make changes, or where perhaps you've been viewing life from rose-tinted glasses. This could be an awakening time. And with Saturn and Neptune, it doesn't happen so easily. It's not like, oh, I woke up and I've had this great awakening. It doesn't work like that with Saturn and Neptune. Saturn and Neptune coming together, there's a level of disappointment involved. Sometimes a disappointment of, well, why didn't I understand this before? Why have I, especially with Saturn, it has a lot to do with time. Why has it taken me so long to come to this awakening or epiphany or understanding? During this time, your mind can, with a conjunction, it can start off with not having clarity. And remember, we also have Mercury going retrograde at the end of February the 26th. So this could be quite a cycle of trying to find your clarity and sense of self and trying to understand what's going on. But it's a process. And throughout this Saturn-Neptune conjunction, you can come into a sense of truth, awakening, epiphanies, enlightenments. I mean, when we look at the third house from a more kind of esoteric point of view, we're looking at awareness as well. So it's coming into a strong sense of awareness, and that could be connected to all aspects of life, which then is the catalyst or determines the route and the journey and the path that you are going to take in life. It's almost like you're at crossroads or at a turning point, and you're ready to set off on this new journey of finding self and meaning and purpose. And I'm going through that journey with you. I'm an Aquarius myself, and I have a stellium of Aquarius planets, and my ruler is in Aquarius, Uranus. So I'm living the Aquarius life, I'm living the Pluto life with Pluto and Aquarius for the next 2 decades, and I'm going on this journey with you. So I'm looking forward to the enlightenment and the epiphanies and the awakenings this energy, this eclipse brings into my life. I know that I'm going to be super intentful and thoughtful and mindful of what I'm putting out there in the universe and what it is that I want to bring forward into my life in this unique journey that I'm on. And I know I'm going to be spending this day really surrendering to self and intuition, because the seeds that we're planting, and it's so interesting. Now, this obviously varies and depends on where you live on the planet, right? But where I live, we are advised to plant seeds, and I'm talking here about gardening and what have you. We're advised to plant seeds. I mean, many seeds are planted during February so that they can grow by the time summer approaches, because, you know, planting seeds, it takes time, right? It's a long journey and a long process. It's not like you plant a seed and the next day the flowers and the plants are growing. No, especially like, for example, if you're growing crops and you're growing them through instead of growing like a kind of small plant, you're growing it by the seed. It takes a lot of time, and there's a lot of patience and nurturing involved. And that's the same for like new moons and eclipses, is being very intentful and thoughtful. Now, sometimes, no matter how thoughtful and aware and mindful and peaceful you're trying to be and cautious you're trying to be, sometimes, you know, there can be the unexpected, the unpredictable that kind of comes into your life, and you kind of have to deal and navigate through it. And this would go to Uranus, because Uranus is making a challenging aspect with this eclipse. Uranus is currently in Taurus, and it's going to be at 27 degrees when this eclipse is forming, and it's not making the most pleasant aspect to this eclipse, which is showing that there is this restless, there is this lack of patience, and there could be something that is unpredictable, but nonetheless, it's pushing you to make the changes necessary. Okay? So just bear that in mind. So Aquarius rising, I'm wishing you all the best during this solar eclipse. Know that this is a time of awakening, epiphanies, being intentful of the life path, life choices, and life directions you're taking on. And may it all work out in your favor. I'll speak to you soon. Lots of love. Pisces rising, welcome to your solar eclipse in Aquarius horoscope. So we have a solar eclipse happening on February the 17th at 28 degrees of Aquarius. Now, the nodes are still in your sign, Pisces, and your opposite sign, Virgo. So this eclipse is still influencing you, and you are also one of the main characters of this eclipse. And the reason why is, yes, because we've got a solar eclipse, and when we look at eclipses, we also look at where the nodes are at. And the nodes are still in the Pisces and Virgo axis, but nonetheless, this is still an eclipse. But also, not only is the North Node, which is the future, the destiny, the trajectory we're on, where we're headed, not only is it in your sign, Pisces, but the planet of love and relationships is also going to be in Pisces in a conjunction with the North Node, which is really emphasizing on love, relationships, and partnerships, as well as the heart chakra and self-worth and worthiness and the feminine energy. So this strong energy, the North Node and planet Venus coming to a conjunction during a solar eclipse. And remember, solar eclipses, they're a seeding point, especially this solar eclipse. It's about new beginnings, new cycles, new chapters, meaning, especially with Venus in the mix in the North Node, there could be new beginnings in relationships, new relationships and partnerships forming, changes and shifts in relationships, and they're destined because we're looking at the North Node, the destiny point, in a conjunction with the planet of love and relationships, Venus. So many can expect a new relationship, a destined relationship, a relationship moving forward. You know, you can go from just dating to becoming really serious, or feeling like you've found the one, a soulmate, a destined partner, or a partnership. So that is a really strong theme during this eclipse. Now, that's impacting your first house, so your overall life and identity. That's where that shift and change is occurring. It could also mean where you are really coming into an awakening, a heart awakening, or there's a shift and change in how worthy you feel of love and relationships and how you feel about yourself. That could also be a manifestation of the North Node and Venus. This could also support you in any type of creative endeavor, whether it's work related or it's just a hobby or a project. The North Node and Venus coming together, this is also art and inspiration and creativity that is very much heartfelt and almost channeled from the heart as well. Now, during this eclipse, there is also a very important theme of Saturn and Neptune. Saturn and Neptune will be in a conjunction during this eclipse, and they are both impacting your second house. So this is also a time of awakening and epiphanies and really removing those rose-tinted glasses. And because they're impacting the second house, this could have to do with, again, worthiness, self-worth. That's a key theme when it comes to the second house. How you feel about yourself, how worthy you feel about yourself does impact your level of abundance. You know, often we look at the second house as the money house, right? But what is behind all of that? What is behind all the abundance? It's how you feel about yourself. It's how worthy you feel, how much you believe in yourself, how deserving you feel. So you may be working through that journey as well of self-love and self-worthiness. There may be something that has been occurring in your life regarding this area of life, but there may have been a lack of clarity, or during this time there's a lack of clarity, but you're navigating through this transit and gaining the truth, or gaining the real perspective, and then not the rose-tinted perspective on this area of life. Perhaps you've been romanticizing this area of life. And during this time, with Saturn Neptune coming into a conjunction, they're forming, and Saturn Neptune go into an exact conjunction on February the 20th, but nonetheless they're still both at 0 degrees of Aries during this eclipse. So it's still really strong, this energy, especially because it's an eclipse energy. So there may be a lot of reality hitting you during this time, where you're having to really address what's really going on with this area of life. No more rose-tinted glasses, no more romanticizing this area of life, getting real with it. There may be a level of disappointment involved. That's a very classic Saturn-Neptune conjunction manifestation, but it's part of the process and part of the journey to really sober up in this area of life and start to rebuild this area of life, but being very realistic, being very disciplined, and being very Saturnian with this area of life, meaning being very disciplined and putting your all, putting your effort, time, and energy, being devotional to this area of life, being committed to this area of life, and not looking at this area of life, like I said, from rose-tinted glasses, being real with yourself. So that is a new cycle also that will be coming up, especially during this eclipse. So those are two really important transits occurring during this eclipse. Venus and Neptune coming to, not Venus and Neptune, sorry, Venus and the North Node coming together, and then also Neptune and Saturn coming together. Now, in terms of the actual eclipse, which is the sun and the moon coming together in sign of Aquarius at 28 degrees, this will happen in your 12th house. And this very much has to do with past. I mean, some people who are very spiritual and believe in past lives, it could be coming to an end of past cycles and then opening up this new chapter, this new cycle, having this new rebirth. That is a typical eclipse manifestation. It's a solar eclipse manifestation is a rebirth, but this is more so a seeding point. And it has to do with the past, perhaps, the things that were occurring in the past. You're closing that cycle, that chapter, and you're seeding, and you're being very intentional about where you're headed and how you want to move forward. This could have to do with your intuition, your spirituality, your creativity. And there may be some type of new rebirth there, like a spiritual awakening, a spiritual epiphany, spiritual wisdom coming down, enlightenment. That is a very classic 12th house spiritual manifestation as well. Now, it seems like Uranus is really pushing this eclipse energy. Uranus will be in Taurus in the 3rd house, and it's forming a challenging aspect with this eclipse, where it wants more freedom, it wants more change, and it has to do with your mind and how you're thinking. Now, when we look at the 3rd house from a more esoteric point of view, it also has a lot to do with wisdom and enlightenment and awakening. So it seems like that is going to be a strong theme as well during this eclipse for you. Perhaps awakening past wisdom, past gifts and abilities. That could be a manifestation if you're a very spiritual person, or wanting shifts and changes in your life, but first you're having to come to a realization of the past and how that has played a part in your life. So be very intentional during this time, because there's some very strong aspects occurring. There are some destined aspects occurring, such as Venus and North Node coming together. There's some karmic energies occurring, like Saturn and Neptune, and also the eclipse being in the 12th house for you. So overall, it's a time of awakening, enlightenment, and destiny playing a part here. So Pisces rising, wishing you all the best, and I'll speak with you soon.